Well, I brought along two friends today to talk about the Western Conference Final. We got Andrew Hernandez to talk about the LA Galaxy, my good friend Cheyenne of Rave Green TV to talk about the Seattle Sounders. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Curious to see what they think. But before we get into it, make sure you like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are 220 subscribers away from 5K. So close. We're going to hit that number by MLS Cup Final Day, less than 2 weeks away. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Guys, we're finally here to the Western Conference Final. We'll start off with Andrew. How you feeling, man?
Hard to be better. Honestly, after Sunday was a pretty special weekend. We were talking a little bit about it, but I was able to take my parents to a Galaxy game for the first time in a while, and man, what a game to take them to. So after that, it's hard to be feeling better. Got a great pep in my step in this work week, and Saturday can't come soon enough. Hope you're doing well, man.
Yeah, man, 6 goals. Pretty exciting game to be at. Cheyenne, we and you all did our watch alongs. I went on your channel. We did a breakdown of a post game breakdown after the match. How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling about things?
Honestly, as the good old meme goes, I didn't think we were gonna get this far, but here we are. And I'm not feeling too bad, all things considered. I would probably feel a little bit better if I was a Galaxy fan, but beggars can't be choosers. I'm happy to be here and gonna take it in stride.
Well, me and you both were surprised with the Sounders beating LAFC just because the poor record that Brian Schmetzer had against Steve Cherundolo. Now, this is a different match. Me and you did a preview, so make sure you check his preview out. I'll put a link into it in the description below. But what are the Seattle Sounders going to have to do differently in this match against the Galaxy than what they did against LAFC in order to win?
I think, I've watched now the Galaxy's games. You got to try to, set the tempo early. You don't want to play catch up from the get go. I think to a degree of kind of like what you spoke about. I watched your video at the time of recording the day of where you uploaded, where you previewed the remainder of the bracket, who you thought was going to win. You're leaning more towards Seattle's going to have to, outscore the Galaxy. I agree and disagree. I don't think it has to be that extreme, but it's like Seattle really have to set the tempo, and they really can't be like playing second fiddle to the Galaxy. Like, I think the strategy against LAC worked because LAC likes being the counterattacking team, but instead this time around, the Sounders learned from their 4 previous mistakes. Fool me 4 times, shame on you. And they decided, hey, let's play 5 in the back, play more defensive. Let's do something different from before. Let's play the opposite of our normal game of not having possession, letting LAFC counterattack us, and that benefited us. But I think, we've already beaten the Galaxy once 3-1. Granted, it was in Leagues Cup, and I think Andrew can agree that I think they're basically after the group stage, Galaxy were kind of throwing away that competition because they didn't really care, to what I understood from the Galaxy side of things. But we still were able to score a bunch of goals. Though on the one hand, though, those were all defenders that scored in that 3-1 game, which is so weird to think about. But 3 defenders scored in that game, and you got to set the tempo. You can't play catch up in this game. You got to play from minute 1 to minute 90. And I think you do got to play a different lineup even to the game against LAFC, but that's just my opinion anyway.
But Andrew, as far as the LA Galaxy and Seattle Sounders matchups this year, Cheyenne had pointed out that they had lost in Leagues Cup 3-1 to the Sounders, but they did go undefeated in the regular season. They won, I want to say it was 2-1, and then there was a draw, 0-0. Do you think that the Galaxy, he alluded to maybe Leagues Cup, they just were disinterested. They didn't really care about the tournament. Do you think the Galaxy have the Seattle Sounders number?
I don't know about having their number. I was looking at the record a little bit earlier, trying to think about how this one could go. It was a 1-0 win at home, a 0-0 away. So
1-0.
very, very close affairs. Not much in it. I was at that game in Seattle. Not too many chances for either side from what I remember. Maybe a couple of local brews messed up the judgment there, but I don't remember there being too much to get excited about in that game. At home, again, 1-0. You get the job done, but it's not a result that you look back on and fills you with a ton of confidence. But when we're looking at the previous form, you sort of forget that a little bit. With 15 goals in 3 games, you think, okay, who we're putting 5 past anyone. I don't care who it is. It's kind of that feeling right now. But in terms of the matchup, I'd say it's historically it's been really close this season. You guys mentioned that 3-1 win. If anything, it leads a little bit towards Seattle's favor. I think the goal differential might be 1 goal towards their favor. So a little bit interesting, but with the Galaxy, the way they've been in these playoffs, it really feels like they've unlocked that gear. It feels like there might be a little bit more than what they had in those other matchups previously.
Yeah, and Sean, you had mentioned that in my preview, I talked about what the Sounders had to do in order to win this game. I said they have to score 3 goals. They can't win a defensive match against the Galaxy. I just don't think you can stop them from scoring. Why is it that you disagree? Like, or what point of that do you disagree with that they could win in another form or fashion?
I think Sounders could win 2-1. I don't think they have I think it will be tough for them not the thing is, okay, to add on to Andrew's point before I get onto this point, all the games that happened were super early in the season. Seattle were absolute hot dog water. LA Galaxy were okay. Like they had all these budding stars, but things hadn't gelled it yet. And even the Leagues Cup game was still that midway point of the season. The thing that worries me the most is everything's clicking at the perfect time for the Galaxy. That is some baloney bullshit. Like I would kill for that to be the case for my team. I think obviously we're in the right trajectory right now, but the way that they're playing is fantastic. The reason I say that I think Seattle could come out with a 2-1 win or a 3-1 win, one, because we've already seen it once before, even though I don't see Seattle scoring 3 goals, but they could win this. I realistically see the Sounders winning this game 2-1, just because I think they can nullify LA Galaxy's defense to a degree. And I think that's going to take a lot of luck and also Galaxy not showing up on the day.
Rabbit's foot, 4-leaf clovers, horseshoes. I mean, what are we talking about here?
But we already saw that in the last game, didn't we? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but here's the difference though.
Yeah.
The Sounders definitely played a good matchup against LAFC, what they had to do to win. But if the Galaxy, to your point, were not playing as well in the beginning of the season, they had to gel and they had to build this cohesion as a team. They're scoring 5 goals a game in the playoffs in 3 games. It's not like a 1-game outlier. They're averaging 5 goals per game. What makes you think that Seattle can prohibit them from scoring?
Because it's the opposite. It is Seattle's defense is playing some of the best it's played all season. I think Frei is hit. I mean, we've talked about this a gajillion times. Low-key, I'm kind of getting tired of talking about it, but Frei is hit peak form. Like this is like some iconic 2016, 2017 Stefan Frei behavior we're seeing right now. The Yamar thing, we don't know what the situation's like, but nonetheless, I think any defender can step up. I don't think anyone's on Yamar's caliber, but I think the defense is clicking at the right time. The offense, Lord have mercy. I don't know what to tell you. Who's going to score? How's that going to go down? What deflection? What, cross we're going to need? Or maybe Yoshida scores an own goal for us. I don't know. We might need another one of those. But I do think as much as the Galaxy's offense is clicking, I think the Sounders defense is clicking as well.
Yeah, I think that if the Sounders obviously have a good defense, and Stefan Frei's playing out of his mind, but they're going to have to play a different style. I don't think the LAFC game plan is going to work against the Galaxy. Now, Andrew, the Galaxy, like I just mentioned, are scoring at an incredible rate. I think they have the best average of any MLS team through three or more games. 5 goals per game. Does the Seattle Sounders defense worry you, or do you think they have the horses to maintain the Galaxy or prevent them from scoring so many goals?
Watching Seattle against LAFC, they were dogged. To defend well against LAFC, you really, really have to match them in terms of intensity, the press, and Seattle delivered on that. Like Shayon mentioned, it really did feel like, looking at it felt like they clicked. From the midfield to the defense, it was a really, really solid unit, not giving LAFC too many looks. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, this is a defense who can stand up and deliver on the day. Can they do it against 3-4 guys? I'm not 100% sure. Again, LAFC, I don't think they had a very good game either. You have Giroud not scoring anything in 800 something minutes. Miguel Berry and Eric Zavaleta on the Galaxy. Zavaleta has played I don't know how many minutes, but he has more goals than Giroud. So when you think about that sort of what you're coming up against, LAFC and the Galaxy, two very, very different sides. And if you're counting on the Galaxy to maybe not perform or not show up, like sort of like LAFC did, it feels a little bit wishful. It's anything can happen in the playoffs. If you're gonna win, you're gonna need some luck. It's about how lucky Seattle can get. It seems like they earned their luck in that last game for sure. Can they earn it again? They can. Will they? Is a different question.
Well, I will say this too, though. This is an important factor. The Galaxy haven't lost a match at home this year. They're undefeated. So it just feels like
you don't necessarily need to beat them, though. Even a draw puts things in an interesting situation. You think about the Galaxy and their penalty record. If you can get the Galaxy to a shootout, it's a different thing. Hold them 0-0. You don't necessarily have to beat them, but if you can keep them out of your net, who knows?
Death, taxes, and Will mentioning this goddamn undefeated run, bro. I swear, you mentioned this to me so many times.
Because it's true, though. It's a fact. It's a factor that plays into it. I mean, the Sounders are playing at Dignity Health Sports Park, and that's a fortress for the team. They haven't lost a game, and if Seattle beats them, they're on the most incredible playoff run in the history of MLS, right? But the only issue that I have with this matchup is I feel like the Sounders are just I don't see the Sounders keeping the Galaxy off the scoreboard. I don't see them preventing them from scoring any goals. I think that if the Sounders could prevent the Galaxy from scoring more than 2 goals, that would be a good feat just based on how the whole playoffs has went. Someone's going to have to step up on the attack for the Sounders. Someone's gonna have to step up, man. Someone's gonna have to score a goal. It can't just be defenders scoring goals or other teams' defenders scoring goals. It's gonna have to be Jordan Morris. It's gonna have to be Rusnak. It's gonna have to be De La Vega. It's gonna have to be Rui Diaz. Cheyenne, who is the most likely to say, I'm on a mission, man. I'm etching myself in history this weekend. Who is the guy that can do this for the team? Is it your boy Jordan Morris?
I'd like it to be Rui Diaz. I'd like it to, because this could potentially be his last ever game. And I think it's so sad how things have ended with Raul. Because like even I've been at a point for the last 2 years where I'm like, bro, this guy needs to go. But then I'm watching, this might be bad. I might have like issues, but I've been watching old Sounders highlight games of like old playoff runs, old big games.
The glory days.
Precisely. And I just see how good Rui Diaz was back in his day. And I'm just like, fuck, dude, maybe I'm a little bit of a douchebag for the things I said, but he's just been so like bad these last 2 years. And I think that's more due to the club than him, because it's like we held on for too long. And I'd love for him to be the guy to score. He has a pretty good record against the Galaxy too. He has scored a handful of goals against them. It's funny because every game we keep talking about, Rui Diaz has a pretty good scoring rate against the opponent, be it LAFC, be it whoever. And I think a realistic person you could bring up is Georgie Manungu. I think he definitely changed the game. I think got an assist technically on Morris's goal. I don't know if they credit it to him, but he was the one that passed it to him in his path to score. I think Georgie's been by far one of the best Sounders attackers. I know some people would say Paul Rothrock. I think he's a really good player too, but I think he's too system-wise. I think Georgie is the one that can really change a game. He has that technical ability that, you know, you just don't know what he's going to give you. And I think that, you know, that element of surprise is what can change big games, because you don't know what you're going to have to face off against. So I'd like it to be Rui Diaz. I'm going to say Georgie. He completely changed the game when he came on for us against LAFC. I don't know who's going to score, though. The thing is these guys are all good, but who's going to actually put their – I think we need to sign me up. That's what we're talking about during my watch-along was I think it's time for me to get in there, put on the boots, make it happen. But no, I think that's the big thing that worries me too, is the scoring part is just.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on. Let me ask you about Rui Diaz. So he came off, or he was on the bench, and I think he did come in late in the game. He barely played.
Super late. Like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. So are you saying that he needs to start like we kind of talked about before? They need to go all out attack and have him and Morris play together?
You know, I think the thing is the game against, I mean, you know this, the game against LAFC, I was suggesting you start Rui Diaz, bring Jordan off the bench. I don't know why this seems like such like a scientific rocket science theory of like, oh, you can't bench Jordan. He's our leading goal scorer this season. But it's like, really, it's not a difficult arithmetic where it's like, you play the guy that has a good goal scoring record who doesn't maybe have the legs like Jordan does. Granted, I don't think Jordan doesn't have any more kneecaps anymore, essentially, but at least he's got speed somewhat still. You start Rui Diaz. It's one or the other. You start Rui Diaz, bring Jordan off the bench on tired legs, so then his speed's really impactful to stretch the game, or you just start the both of them. That's how I would do it. Granted, I guess I ate my words because I said we should bench Morris, but nonetheless, he scored in extra time. It was in the second half of ET, so it's like, he could be effective against tired legs, and you need to have as many resources off the bench. And I would do something like that. You got to go with something different. You cannot go with because that's what was the success against LAC. You went with something different. You went with your 2021 5 in the back system. And that's what that was the last good season Seattle had, was that system. So maybe you got to go with that 2 striker formation that we saw in the beginning of this season. Granted, it wasn't to great success, but the team wasn't playing well back then.
Yeah. So I think that this matchup is really going to come down to which group is better. Is it going to be the Seattle attackers have a better day, or the LA Galaxy's defense having a better day? So Andrew, I asked Cheyenne which attacker has to have a good game or who has to score in order for them to win. I'm going to ask you which LA Galaxy defender has to have a good game and to make sure that they don't get on the scoreboard.
I think it's Maya Yoshida. He is a general back there. The way he barks orders, especially at Emiro Garces, I'm amazed at how the guy knows so many languages, so it was no problem for him. But the way he directs just to his young players around him, it was either Nelson has been recently on that left side, but even you have a young Julian Aude, you have Mickey Amane, who I guess is experienced as well, but really the way he directs Emiro Garces and he tells him when to press, tells him when to step, and the way Garces complies, he is so quick at closing down space. He's just not afraid of stepping up to anybody, getting in anyone's face, making it difficult for an attacker. So for Garces to have a good game, Yoshida has to have a great game, sort of organizing that. And he's been arguably our most consistent player this year. So our captain back there, I think he is going to have a good game. He's gonna, just set up that defense. If Maya Yoshida is on, which he is, Garces will be on, and if Garces is on, that's a pretty impressive, formidable wall back there. You have experience on either side in Nelson and Yamane. It's a really, really nice unit the way it comes together, and I really do think that Yoshida is that key. He just makes everything tick.
Well, I've labeled this the playoffs of the veteran goalkeeper. If you look at all the teams that have had a lot of success, they've had a good veteran presence in goal. Do you have any concerns about John McCarthy? John McCarthy was the 2022 MLS Cup MVP, which I think a lot of people forget that, for LAFC when they beat the Union. Do you have any concerns about him holding up in a big game and delivering for the Galaxy?
I don't think so. There was a moment at the beginning of the season where a lot of fans, even myself, were questioning his distribution, how he is on the ball. There were some couple of blunders early on in that season where he gave up a couple of goals, either just a bad short pass, a bad long ball. But that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. I haven't had to think or worry too much about McCarthy in a while. He seems solid. He's a really, really good shot stopper. The goal he faced against in the game against Minnesota, that first goal is just a rocket. I don't know too many keepers are stopping that. You see the way that his body tries to contort, react to it midair. It's such a good shot. So I don't blame that one for going past in your post. The penalty, he saved it, then he had to retake it. He's dancing a little bit on his line, a little bit, took that step, but he's shown that he has showed up in big moments. He can react. So I don't think I'm too concerned about him, genuinely. I do really like Mikovic. It's a shame for him that he hasn't had too much playing time. I think if there was a little bit more contention there, Mikovic would have had some more appearances this season. I'm a really big fan of his, but I can't really complain about having a keeper not losing his spot. That's what you want.
Okay, I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to ask Cheyenne, who is your most, what player on the Galaxy are you most scared of?
Bro, I have to
pick
name
your
one.
Poison. Pick your poison. But off the top of your head, which player is keeping you up at night? Has Brian Schmetzer losing the remainder of the hair he has left? Who is keeping you up at night? Who's the guy you're most worried about when you guys play this weekend?
I think there's a lot of players. I'll just go with Riqui Puig. I've been a big fan of him since he's come into the league, and the way that he is, there might be LAFC fans watching this, but I don't really care. Dude, he's like the biggest reason Galaxy run LA. And I love that about I've been such a big fan of him since he's come into the league. I think he's a true leader, and he deserves the credit he is getting and the success he is reaping, because he was with the team when they were bad. But it's not like he wasn't like one of those young, like European egos where he's like, oh, fuck this, I'm out, like kind of a little bit like Thiago Almada was with Atlanta. He's like, this shit ain't going nowhere, I'm out, I'm going to Botafogo. Granted, Garth wanted to sell him, but at the same time, you could tell he didn't want to be there. But with Puig, he was like, he wanted to be there, and he liked the project, he liked it. And I'm jealous of that. I would love to have a dynasty, like that's the American sports term, dynasty midfielder like that. Like we've had it, but Puig is just different gravy. So I would say him for me. I don't know if it'd be the same for Brian, because me and him think about things differently, but I'll go with Puig.
He's not teaming up with you to game plan.
No.
Let me ask you the same question, Andrew. Which player on the Sounders do you fear most, or are you scared that could make a difference that might ultimately contribute to your team losing?
I think it's Frei, Stefan Frei. The game he had against LAFC single-handedly won him that game. So many great chances, especially at the end there for LAFC, but he just responded. It was unreal watching that performance. I was driving home from LA, but even then, just having it playing in the background, seeing it, man, that guy, that was really, really impressive. Like you mentioned, Cheyenne, the 2016 form, it was vintage Frei, and it was really, really great to watch. As an ex-keeper myself, it's just hats off. So when you see that, oh man, this guy's coming to Dignity Hill Sports Park, that's an exciting matchup. You want to see the best against the best. This LA Galaxy team, if they can put a couple press Frei, all, applause to them. But if Frei can stop them, it's the way he's been playing, I wouldn't be too surprised. He's really, really been on form. So it could come down to him keeping the Galaxy out.
So I'm going to give each one of my player for each team who I think I would be not necessarily afraid of, but worried about. Ones to watch, yes. So for the Galaxy, it would be Gabriel Peck. Gabriel Peck is a special player who can do it all: dribble, create chances, score, distribute, the speed. He makes special plays that this league hasn't seen before. And I think that the Sounders are going to have their hands full, because even if they're able to shut him down, and they got to worry about Joveljic or Paintsel or Puig.
He has scored both the times against Seattle. The only goals Galaxy have scored are all come from Peck.
So Peck owns the Sounders?
I wouldn't say owns. They only won one of the games.
No, I'm just messing with you. No, but he does well against them, at least, right? He plays good games against the Sounders. Yeah. But he's a special player who might not be here for long. You saw how good he was against against Minnesota United. He should have had a hat trick if he hadn't missed that PK. He had a beautiful goal in the second half to put him up 4-2. Very, very special player. It's hard to pick anyone else outside of Stefan Frei for the Sounders, just because he has just been a consistent force in goal for them. And, without him, who knows what the scoreline would have been against LAFC. They probably would have lost 2-1, 3-1, maybe even 3-0. Who knows if the Chanel goal hadn't went in. But either way, Stefan Frei has had a lot of critics ready to move off of him for Thomas. Said that he was washed. He was past his prime. It was time to move on. And he's shown why he's so valuable, why it's important to have a veteran presence, and that he can still play even at the ripe age of 38 years old. So I think that he's going to have to be the big difference maker in this game. Now, moving on to predictions. I'll start with Andrew first. What do you expect to happen in this game? What is your score prediction? And is your team going to be successful?
Every fan hopes so. I'm expecting another fun one. This Galaxy team has really looked special in the playoffs. I talked about them unlocking a third gear in my semifinal preview, I think it was, or maybe my piece before that. I talked about the season really being a marathon for the Galaxy. It really does seem like they've taken it that way. They've started a little bit slow, kind of jogging it, maybe even reserving some stuff. You didn't see Riqui Puig tracking back essentially at all. Same goes for Joseph Paintsel, Gabriel Peck. They did a little bit more, but even then they weren't having the impact that they're having now. all the entire front line is pressing like men possessed in this postseason. You're just seeing so much more effort, and it really feels like they're really stepping into that last sprint now, that final stretch during that last mile of 24, and they're going for it all out. Vanny in the last presser, he talked about it. We're not a team that sits back. We go and we deal with the consequences later. And that's what you've seen. This team has gone from the first whistle, or they'll score 30 seconds in, and they'll score in the last 30 seconds as well. Minute to minute, pressing, going for goals mercilessly. So when you think of that, it's exciting. You know that they have that they are a talented group, and with the effort and the focus that they have, it feels difficult to stop them. It's really like that perfect storm at right when you need it. And because maybe of that marathon strategy where they probably did reserve a little bit in the regular season, they probably didn't get all the points that they should have, but they knew what their goal was. That's to get to this MLS final with a healthy squad, which they have. The only injury is Martin Cáceres, who's been pretty much out for the whole season with a knee injury. Besides that, it's a fully healthy roster, and all of it just feels so intentional. With the group at that front office, you kind of don't doubt it being intentional. And so it's exciting prospect. We talked about it a little bit before we hopped on, but I think a 3-1, I'd love a clean sheet for once, but I think maybe someone's going to pop up. It's probably going to be a set piece, something interesting, but I do think Seattle makes this interesting. But this Galaxy, just team, you don't even want to just say their offense. Everything is really, really clicking. So I'm excited for Saturday. I cannot wait.
So you got the Galaxy winning 3-1 against the Seattle Sounders. Cheyenne, I move to you. What is your prediction for this game?
So a talking point we haven't spoken about is this is a repeat of the 2014 MLS Cup matchup, which, fun fact that no one asked for, but I'm going to give it to everybody, was my first ever heartbreak, was that playoff matchup when Juninho scored that stupid goal, because that should have been the Sounders team to win the treble, to be the first ever MLS team to do it, because that Sounders team was cracked. Like, I still think about that team to this day.
Because the guy behind your right shoulder.
Dude, that guy, raw sauce, no ketchup. I miss him every day. But nonetheless, it's going to be a repeat of that. And there's been a lot of good playoff games between the Sounders and Galaxy. And things have kind of evened out. I used to really hate the Galaxy early on when I first started watching Sounders because, Sounders would always lose to them. They were always the roadblock. And things have just evened out since then. So I could care less at this point. But it's interesting to see that they're facing off again. And I think that is credit to Seattle to surprisingly be in the spot, and to the Galaxy for a lot of the hard work they put in to, make such a quick turnaround in 1 year. And I hope Sounders can at least take some notes from the Galaxy in regards to making those positive changes with their signings. And we talked about it on my video too, Will. So if you want to listen to more in depth about it, they can. But, you got to really respect what the Galaxy have done. How do I think this game's going to play out? I couldn't freaking tell you, and I don't know what to tell you, because sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. I just need it to be low scoring. It's the same exact thing I said for the LAFC game. The longer you keep the game to a 1 or no goal margin, the more the Sounders are in it, and the more of a detriment that is to the LA Galaxy. So I don't know. I think maybe I think Sounders will just fall short and lose 2-1. The only way I could see Seattle really shithouse their way through it is in a PK shootout. But at the same time, McCarthy's kind of cracked at saving PKs. Like, I've seen it time and time again. So it's like, I want to be optimistic about it. And hey, maybe it's the reverse jinx. I don't know. But I'm going to go with 2-1 Galaxy. I'm going to be on a little bit more of the reserved side. And then when I do my watch along and we win, they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 3-1 for a couple reasons. And I'm 3-1 LA Galaxy. The Galaxy are playing some of the best team ball that I've seen in MLS since I've been watching the league as a whole. They're connecting. It feels like there's no flaws right now. Even the defense is holding up pretty well. Yes, they conceded 2 goals to Minnesota United, but one of them was a PK. So they only conceded 1 goal and run a play. So they've only really given up 2 goals in 3 matches and run a play. And the attack has scored 15 goals in 3 games. They're playing at home. The playoffs runs through their Dignity Health Sports Park for the rest of the playoffs until they lose. So it just feels like there's a lot of momentum in their favor. And they have the best attack I have ever seen in this league. The front three is absolutely insane. Puig is the maestro pulling all the strings, probably the most touches of any player I've ever seen in MLS. It feels like 80% of their possession, he's touching the ball. It's what it
At
feels
least
like.
650 in that last game, 92% pass accuracy. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's always got the ball. And Marco Royce could be an X factor that no one really talks about. He gets lost in the shuffle because of all these other dudes.
And that's a
So
good thing. That's a good thing for the That's a
no, it
luxury
is.
player right there.
It is a
God, I
luxury,
hate
but
this.
but think about it though. That's a guy who is a very known commodity, and you forget about him because of all the other weapons they have.
Must be
So
a nice life.
must be a nice life, right? And look, I think the Sounders, if it was the 2016 through 2019 Sounders, not the roster, but the way they were ran, where they added pieces to really go for it, this would be a different game. I think it'd be a close game. But this is a Sounders team that you and I've talked about where they just are kind of on cruise control, not really making any significant additions outside of Pedro de la Vega, who hasn't lived up to the expectations. And it just feels like this is a team with some missing pieces. But they've been good enough to make it. Anything can happen. If they make the Galaxy frustrated and prevent them from scoring, then they have a chance. But I think that we will know how this game is going in the first 15 to 20 minutes. We will know what direction this is going in the first 15 or 20 minutes. If the Galaxy are struggling to score and they look kind of sloppy, the Sounders have a chance. If the Galaxy score a goal in the first 15 minutes, I think they're cooked.
Wallahi, we're finished.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on today. It's going to be an exciting weekend. I can't wait to see who wins. We'll finally get to have some relief and know who's going to represent the West in the MLS Cup Final. But before I let you go, start off with Andrew. Where can the people find you at?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, Will. You could catch my articles on Los Angeles Sports Nation. We've got weekly and game articles coming out over there. My Twitter, NGF Andrew, or on Instagram, Nuestra Galaxia Futbolera. We comment on Real Madrid, Fiorentina, OCSC, Angel City. Lots of good footy stuff over there. Anything SoCal soccer, you could catch it there. Hope to catch you.
And Cheyenne, where can the people follow you at?
Well, people, first and foremost, before I talk about myself, if the Galaxy do end up going to the final, I'm okay. Like I'd be happy about it. If Galaxy are gonna beat us, they better win the whole fucking thing. That's all I'm gonna say. They beat us, they better win this shit. So, they're a very deserved team of winning MLS Cup if it does happen. But nonetheless, I'll digress. I'll stop glazing the Galaxy a little bit and start glazing us. If you want the best Sounders content, Club World Cup's coming up. We got that draw coming up for the Club World Cup. You want to do it, be a part of my watch-alongs. Rave Green TV, all social media, but mainly YouTube. YouTube is king of all platforms. Just Rave Green TV on YouTube. And if you end up stumbling upon the other shit, then you do.
Well, I appreciate you both for joining me. I can't wait to see what happens. And until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.